Welcome back. Today we are going to do a quick chat on the ZiiGaat collaboration with Hangout.Audio. This is kind of the retuned Odyssey known as Odyssey 2. So kind of right away you get a cool new modular cable, which is in the green and black. The new shells are actually really nice because they are metal on the bottom, kind of another similar to other ZiiGaat faceplates. But I mean, what's really different is the metal shell. And for me, I think the ZiiGaats kind of fit okay. I think some people have problems with them. I tend to be okay with them. But I think this is kind of a nice kind of step up in shell, at least something different from what you normally got. This was the Odyssey shell in all resin, kind of, again, similar faceplate, but in the full resin shell. You know, I think people got kind of used to it. Either you like it or you kind of found fit problems with it. Maybe Odyssey 2 was actually more in line with fitting in your ear. But, either way, it was kind of nice to do something a little bit different, something that they haven't done. So kind of give them credit for that. So we'll kind of do this one a little bit differently. And I would say that generally it very much was the right idea. If someone had approached me and said, hey, do you think we should retune the original Odyssey and make it a little bit more relaxed and kind of that mid to upper treble kind of right there, I would have said, yep, that would have been a great idea. And then you kind of go away and think about it, like, well, now I wonder what they're really going to do. And I would call this the fix. And this is the actual graph from Hangout.Audio. And I would say this is the part that I would have said to fix, to change, to kind of lower this extra energy that's kind of right there, bring it kind of more in line down there. So yeah, I do think that was the intention. I do think that's what they achieved, and that's kind of what it looks like on Odyssey 2. What I would say kind of maybe doesn't really work for me as well is if you lower the energy here, you have to kind of replace it somewhere. So they tended to kind of bump this 2.5K, I think that's what it is. Maybe they added a little bit of extra upper treble there. Not really sure if that's real or just the coupler. But either way, that the idea is that they would kind of lower it here, replace it there, and then you don't have to bump out either of these two if you kind of reduce this mid-bass dip, make it a little shallow, kind of what they did there. I wasn't too keen on that either. So, I do think there was kind of a fix, and then they tried to fill in some of the energy so it still sounded clear, had a lot of clarity. The vocals still sounded nice, sounded like a hybrid, and I think that was the intention of Odyssey 2. The more difficult part of this is, after you make these changes, how do those fit your preferences? And I thought Odyssey was a really, really nice set for most people. And sure, there was a little bit of extra energy there, but in general, it kind of worked for a lot of people. It was a very popular set. So some of these changes, lowering the mid bass there, adding a little bit of extra energy there, that's going to appeal to, I think, less or a fewer amount of people. I don't know. To me, I actually prefer the original Odyssey to Odyssey 2 because of these changes specifically. And I'll talk about kind of what I would have done. But even if we look at my graph and it's not quite as nice as the Hangout.Audio one, you can kind of see this is still dipped here. They kind of increased the 2.5 here, and there was some change here that kind of brought that down. Whether they actually did the upper air there and bump that out, I'm not really sure, but they definitely dipped this out here and kind of replaced the energy here and made this a little bit cleaner here. So yeah, it's kind of a really interesting change. And for me, listening to it at higher volume, a lot of what you hear is this. And the way this kind of went off balance on volume scaling is really, number one, this, because this sounds kind of a little bit thinner. And that kind of leans into this change here. So this is a little bit brighter, a little bit thinner. This is a little bit thinner. These two kind of combine at higher volume, and the vocals aren't really as nice as I like them on Odyssey 2. So this, in general, I would say that the change was probably not for me. It's probably for some other people who, are kind of more keen on these style of changes. So I'll say the intention was right. I think reduce the mid upper treble. That can get a bit spicy on Odyssey. Move the energy before and after. Why would you do that? Because otherwise it would have sounded less resolving, just kind of fixing but not moving. And for me, I think it creates a treble imbalance with more volume. That this upper mid rises too fast. You lose the upper treble out here. Less separation, less layering, or you have to lower the volume, one of those two. So again, this was kind of difficult for me because I don't listen at low volume. I thought even Odyssey, the original Odyssey, not a super high volume set, but certainly enough so it sounded quite big and detailed, sounded like a hybrid. Again, I think a lot of things appeal to a lot of people with the original Odyssey. And for me, this kind of turned it into a lower volume set because of the way this doesn't quite scale with volume, and it really kind of just threw off the balance. It's just two upper mids for me. Kind of lost this, kind of lost what was kind of special with that Odyssey. Even at the price, I think kind of lost a little bit of that hybrid nature to it, of sounding really resolved and kind of really extended. It just kind of compressed the whole tuning into, a lot of that, and that wasn't necessarily my favorite changes. So, I think if you have Protocol Max, you can actually pull this one up. I think I shared it as well, but this is essentially what I would have done. I would have said, add more body to balance and increase in the extension level, lower the upper mids so it's more rebalanced and you could hear everything end to end. So again, this is Odyssey 2, kind of the standard out of the box. You can kind of see the way it's dipped. I would have just put it almost back where it was with Odyssey 1, put this almost back to where it was with Odyssey 1, keep the fix because that was kind of fine, and then just kind of add just a little bit of increased energy out here, kind of in this upper treble. That will balance out with this, and you'll end up with this kind of really nice end-to-end, a little bit more body, scales better with volume, still fixed, still has some more air, still sounds big and projected and, a big sound stage. So this is kind of my changes in PEQ. You can kind of give that a shot. But yeah, kind of an interesting set. Again, as I said, on paper, if someone just asked me if this was something that made sense, I'd be like, yeah, definitely fix that bit. But I think the fix kind of pushed it in a direction that wasn't really along the lines of my preferences. But there's a PEQ that is closer to what I was expecting or what I would have done. So again, thank you guys again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.